Hi and welcome back to the Anjula Devi Cooking School, and today we're going to make pakoras or onion bhajis. Now, to make really good onion bhajis, you really need to use as little water as possible. When you use too much water, what happens is when the batter goes into the oil, it basically, the water basically fights with the oil, and that's when you get rid of those really soggy pakoras that, just aren't really worth eating at all. And the best way to do that is to take all your raw ingredients. So for example, I have here some coriander, I've got some frozen fenugreek, I've got some sliced onions and some baby spinach. And I've taken that and I've put it into a bowl and I've sprinkled it with a little bit of pink Himalayan rock salt. And then I've put something really heavy on top to try and get all the natural juices drawn out of all those ingredients, and take a look at what happens next. So basically you get all those natural flavours and juices come out of all those ingredients, and then look at all that water you have there. And that is what we're hoping we're going to be able to create our batter for the pakoras with. However, sometimes, because you don't know how much water is going to come out of these ingredients, you may have to use a little bit, but nowhere near as much as what a lot of people use. And all the recipes out there currently at the moment kind of say, about a half a pint of water. Now, the other great thing about using the natural waters is that you're going to get a much, much better and tastier pakora. Just water, it's got no flavour, has it? So it makes sense to try and use the natural juices from the actual ingredients, the raw ingredients, because then you've got some flavour going on there already. Now, pakoras do need quite a lot of work into the batter, so they really can taste quite flavoury. And so we're going to add in some more wet ingredients. And so we're going to firstly add in some chopped chilli, about 2 teaspoons, which is about 4 chilies. Okay, and then we're going to add in some ginger as well, and this is fresh ginger that we've just pulsed in the bullet or the blender. Okay, and then we're going to take some curry leaves, about 9 or 10, and we're literally just going to rip them up. These are amazing. Honestly, all you need to do is wrap them with some kitchen towel, put them in a freezer bag and put them in the freezer, and they will stay, nice and flavoursome. You might lose a little bit of the colour, but that doesn't really matter. Okay, and then into that we're going to add in the tiniest bit of garlic, because we really don't want too much garlic in here. Okay, and then the most important spice, well, one of the most important ingredients in pakoras is ajwain. It's actually the family of lovage seeds, but again, a completely different plant. What you do want to do with this is just to roast it first before it goes into your pakoras, which I've already done. And basically just take it, put it into a dry pan on a low heat, just for about a minute, and just allow it to roast. And then into our bowl, we're going to add in a teaspoon of that as well. Okay, and then we've got some lovely tamarind, and again, we're just going to add 2 teaspoons of tamarind. Now, as I said before, do buy the whole wet tamarind and make it yourself, because it's so much nicer than the jar bought one. Now, the other secret ingredient is these here. Okay, now you probably may not recognise them, but they're actually dry pomegranate seeds. Just so divine in pakoras, and for me, it really is a key ingredient in making a good pakora. And the way to use these is just to soak them in a little bit of hot water and then grind them in the pestle and mortar, and you get something like this here. Okay, and then you really only want a teaspoon of this into there. Now remember, we already have salt in here because we put the salt on to get all the water out, so you don't need to salt this any further. Okay, lots of water, lots of flavour gone into that. And then what you do is you basically just take your chickpea flour, gram flour, which is basically chickpea made from chickpeas, your chickpeas that you might use to make hummus with, and you just start to add in quite a lot to start with, about 4 tablespoons. And then you just give it a stir. Now, usually I do this by hand, but I know a lot of people don't like using their hands, so I'm just going to stir in just to show you how easy. Now, obviously, we know what we're looking for here is actually something that resembles a little bit like your pancake mixture. So we want it, you know, just like that. So, and I'm sure most of you have made pancakes, but you know, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about in a minute. So we know that this is far too watery at the moment. Okay, so we're going to add in a further. Now there's no measurements here, purely because we don't know how much water is going to come out of all those wet ingredients. You know, there's quite often, you know, I've made pakoras this way and I found I've had to add in a tiny bit of water, and then on occasions I've made them where I haven't had to add in water at all. And I think this will be the occasion where we don't add in any water. But, you know, if you find that it hasn't, you know, your wet ingredients haven't released much water, then you can add a bit more water. But what we're trying to do here is to avoid any water in this mix at all. We really want to just work with the natural juices that have been released from all those wet ingredients. Now, can you see I'm always getting to that stage that I really kind of want it to. Has gone a tiny bit stiff, but if you just give it a few minutes, you'll find that it'll just loosen up in a minute. Now this, honestly, I do really wish you try this, because you will get the most amazing pakora that you've ever tasted. They won't be soggy, they'll be nice and crisp on the outside, a bit spongy in the inside, and that is what a pakora is about. And it is probably the second most eaten snack in India before the samosa. However, I do know that the dosa is following very, very quickly behind those two items. And if you haven't had a dosa, you've got to try a dosa. I will be making those shortly. Right, so there you go. That is the batter. Now, can you see I've not added any water to that. I've just used all those pure natural juices from those wet ingredients. Now, the last thing to go in is some garam masala, which are just our warming spices. Remember, we talked about those earlier. So we're just going to add in just about a teaspoon of that as well. Okay, there you go. Now, how easy was that? Okay, so I've got some oil here that's been heating up, and the way to do this is just to, you know, make sure your hands are clean. You can just use a spoon if you want, but all you do is just take the batter, just drop it into the oil, obviously away from you like this, and it'll immediately start to sizzle and you know, appear on the surface quite quickly. If they don't do that, and you know, they don't bubble like that, as you can see on the oil there, it's one, your oil is too, it's not at the right temperature. So you just need to kind of make sure that your oil is, they really need to start sizzling and bubbling away. All that kind of bubbles on the oil, you need to kind of be able to see them, and then you'll know that the oil is at the right temperature. And it's really important not to crowd these. And they are already coming and appearing on the surface. Now look how quickly those are browning. It's going to take about probably just another few more minutes to just fry these off. And they already look so light. Look at that. And that's what you want, a really light, crispy, hardly any oil, you know, on the pakora. So what you'll see when I take them out, how, you know, they're not drenched in oil, and then beautifully crispy and just rather delicious. So now they're almost done, they're golden brown. And what you need to do is just take some kitchen paper and take them out, and just make sure you drain all the oil away before you put them onto the kitchen paper. Now look at those, delicious. They're so easy to do. I can really smell the fenugreek, and even I can even pick up the lovage seeds in there as well. And you know, I can smell the sourness of the pomegranate. So it's all there, and you know, it takes such little time to do it. Now, in this saucepan here, I've got a fantastic chutney. I absolutely love this chutney. In here, what I did was I took some jaggery, which again is our unrefined sugar cane, about, you know, 4 tablespoons. You do need quite a lot of sugar, because this is kind of a very syrupy type of chutney. And then into that pan, I added about half a pint of water, some ginger powder, some red chili flakes, and some black rock salt. And look at that. Look how delicious that looks. And I'm just going to pour it into this cup here. And then what you do is you just reduce that down until you get something that looks kind of almost syrupy like that. And it'll take about a good half an hour. Just keep watching it because you don't want to overdo it. Otherwise you'll just get some really, very, very sugary type syrupy, not very pleasant taste. So there you go. Onion pakoras are made with no water other than the juice from all the wet ingredients, along with a tamarind chutney. I should really have a taste because, and look at that. Look what I was talking about. I've hardly got any oil on my hands, and you just literally dip it into that and delicious. Oh my God. They practically are singing in my, I've got flavours bouncing around in my mouth. I honestly have. I can taste the pomegranate, the sourness of the pomegranate, and the fenugreek. It's just delicious. The spinach, everything. If you're at home, sitting at home at the moment, and you've got some ground flour and you've got these ingredients in your kitchen, then go away and have a try and let me know what you think, and I'll see you soon.